Prosecutor's Office in charge of the computer crimes unit there for a number of years. And I'm right now specializing with the firm in the Internet Law Department and in computer crimes on the defense side. With me tonight, I have two experts over here to my far left is Scott Johnson. Scott is a now retired state police officer. He rose to the rank of lieutenant. He was in charge of the computer crimes unit of the state police. He is a forensic specialist. After he left the state police, he went to the New Jersey Regional Computing Forensics Laboratory. For those of you who aren't familiar with the RCFL system, there are RG 15, 20, 30 across the country, and they're a joint project of the FBI, the DOJ, local law enforcement, in the case of New Jersey, the New Jersey Attorney General's office, and the state police. There, he became the deputy director. And basically what they do, or what they did, under Scott's direction when he was there, if you're a law enforcement organization and you need a forensic specialist to review your cell phone or computer or server, whatever it is, they're the experts. There are 20, 30 forensic specialists on staff. They're located in Hamilton, and it's a top secret facility. You walk in the door and the lights go off if you're not top secret, classified and all the rest of it. It's very impressive. Scott is now with Cone Resident. He is in charge of one of the top 10 accounting firms in America. He is in charge of their forensics department and e-discovery. He manages all of that for Cone Resident and a real expert at what he does. I'm glad he's here. To my close left here is Sean Conley. Sean has been an attorney for 5 years. He's with the firm, and he is also a member of the Internet Law Department here. Although Sean's been an attorney for 5 years, his knowledge of technology belies that. You would think that he's not thinking to know it. He's much wiser than his years would lead you to believe, because I have to keep up with him when it comes to his knowledge of technology. I've been doing this for a long time. Sean has a real mastery. So we're going to gather here tonight, and we're going to talk about attorneys and the internet. It's going to be 2.5 hours worth of discussion. There's a lot of ethics in here, what dangers await you out there as a practitioner. Then we're going to go into best practices, and then we're going to follow that up with, if all else fails and you become the victim of a breach, what are you supposed to do? And we'll end. This is one part of 2 days, as you probably all know. Tomorrow, there's a full day schedule from 8 to 4:30 with Doug Piazza and Peter Rogers from the law. And I assume, Ron, you're going to be joining in that discussion as well. You learn all about the ins and outs of the law for people who know it like no one else does. Criminal law updates from Patricia Quelch, our appellate specialist, who will bring everyone up to date on what's going on in the law, world of criminal law for the past year. Juvenile law with Barry Serebnik, former head of the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office family section, and Anthony Vieira, the current head of the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office section. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about juvenile law, since that's also very specialized. People don't think it is. Carl, I know that you know a lot about it. It's a lot more specialized than people think. It's not just criminal law. There are very, very specific things you need to know about that. You're going to hear from two experts. Direct cross-examination from Jim Lynch, who is a former AUSA. His resume speaks for itself. He's a very impressive man and knows more about cross-examination than I think anyone has ever heard. He'll be talking tomorrow. And an ethics overview with Mike Miller from our office. Brett Schwanwig, former first assistant prosecutor from Berkeley County, who's here tonight. And Lisa Bassini, who, 3 prosecutor's offices, was a public defender, and worked in the Office of Attorney Ethics. So you'll be hearing from them, and I think Ray Lost from the Hunter County Prosecutor's Office. Burlington County Prosecutor's Office, thank you. So they'll be here tomorrow. Okay.
Mike, just real quick, as we're talking tonight, if you have a question, if there's something that pops up, like what's that? Because we're all kind of speak the nerd acronym language a lot. We're going to throw stuff out that we know what we're saying, and unfortunately, it might not make any sense. So please just ask, or if we touch on something and you want to know more, throw it out there. It's guaranteed someone else wants to. So.
Thank you. And if you haven't signed in yet, please do. And we're going to go straight for 2.5 hours. So can you go and take a break? In a few slides, I'm going to cover how the internet works. We had some discussion about whether or not this was really advisable or not. But we're going to give it a shot. Part of an attorney's responsibility in today's age is to understand not just technology, but the underpinnings. We're going to be talking a lot about the internet. So, in a couple of slides, this is Internet 101. You've probably seen this written if you look at search warrants, the language appears over and over again. A global network of computers using the TCP/IP protocols to communicate with one another. The internet works pretty much like your office network. You have a server, you have a switch, a couple of computers. Well, that's pretty much the internet, but it's small. It functions the same way using the same protocols. Two of those protocols, TCP/IP and IP, allow information to traverse the internet. The system of how it gets from one place to another is packet-based, and each packet has a life of its own. You can travel any path, and you can circumvent network failures. And why was that system developed like it was? In 1957, President Eisenhower commissioned the, you could say, with all due respect to Al Gore, President Eisenhower commissioned the internet. He said we need some type of system, some network that's going to survive the ravages of a nuclear war. And he sent it off to the Advanced Research Projects Agency, now the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to build it. And a guy named Dr. Licklider, by 1962, came up with the concept. And basically, it's a fault-tolerant network, so that pieces of it can fall off the map and it still continues to function. Now, what you're going to see in the next slide is pretty much a very basic representation of how that works. Here's a computer, and you're going to send an email to someone. Well, as I said, the internet and the whole TCP/IP protocol thing is packet-based. It'll take that email, it'll separate it into maybe 7, 10, 15 parts, depending on the size, and blast them across the internet. And those packets are going to travel in different directions. They all have the information they need to get to the final destination. They just don't all arrive there the same way. So if you were sending an email, it goes to the mail server. The mail server sends it off. One packet goes to one router across the internet. The router is just a machine that moves things along the way. Sends it off. Another packet is another router across the internet. One might be in Chicago. One might be in New York. If the third one, perhaps in Washington, D.C., and there's a problem. The packet gets lost at that server, or the server goes offline, it melts down, or whatever might happen. Well, that doesn't mean that your message gets lost. It doesn't mean that your message doesn't send, because it's fault tolerant. It's designed. The packet doesn't reach its destination. It knows I have to get to another router to get where I'm supposed to go. So it reports back to this original server, I got lost. Can you send me somewhere else? It then reroutes the packet. And eventually, everything ends up where it's supposed to be. Now, that was designed, you can see the obvious analogy there. If a nuclear device took out part of our country, that's not going to shut down the internet. That was the whole purpose behind it. That information that is traversing the internet, or your network, all those little packets that are being sent across, contain the payload or the information or these parts of it, of your email message. But none of that's encrypted. None of that is really protected from someone eavesdropping. For the most part, it doesn't happen. But it's not that hard to accomplish if you have the mind to. Right? The important thing just to realize about that is it's not secure.
They built the internet before hackers.
Not anticipated.
it's meant to be trusted. So that's everything we do to try and overcome bad guys is because the original system trusted that no one was going to try and mess with.
Well, now that you kind of, basic idea of how packets trend, all across the internet, how they know where to go, well, that's where the IP, the Internet Protocol side of the protocol suite comes into play. Every computer that's attached to a network, whether it's in your office or whether it's on the public internet, has an IP address. And for lack of a better description, and that's exactly what it is, for lack of a better description, it's kind of like, but not exactly like, an internet telephone. So every computer has one, so computers know how to talk to each other because they will send information from one IP address to another. And the packet that gets sent from one computer to another will say the origin may be 192.168.1.1. That's the address of one computer. And as it flows across the network, it goes to another address. And that's how it knows where to go. Now that address right there is what's called an IPv4 address. But we ran out of those. They're no longer available. We've actually used them all up. So they're now, we're in the process of moving to address that looks like this. It's a lot longer, there are a lot more addresses available. It's called IP version 6. It's coming in. Well, IP addresses are great if you happen to be a computer and speak numbers. When you want to go to Amazon, you're not going to sit here and say, gee, what's Amazon's IP address? And if I don't know it, how do I get there? Well, they actually thought about that at the time they designed this thing and came up with a system that makes it easy for computers to interact with humans. And that's called the domain name system. That's created in 1984, and basically what it does is, very simply, it matches domain names like Amazon.com with their IP address. So you don't have to know the IP address of Amazon. You type Amazon into a computer, your computer sends that off to a domain name server that says Amazon, Amazon, Amazon. Oh, okay. Here's the IP address, and it sends the packet on its way. Again, it is not secure. Nothing is encrypted. As a matter of fact, there have been attacks on the main domain name servers across the world over the past few years. So that what you can end up with is, you type in Amazon.com, a particular domain name server has been compromised. You don't go to, you go to wherever the compromised server wants to send you. You'll never know, especially if the page you did ends up looking exactly like it's supposed to.
That attack is called farming, with the DH, of course, because that's cool.
Here's a very simple demonstration of domain name system. You want to go to the webpage, you go to CNET, you type in CNET.com, your computer sends that information to a DNS server that's probably part of like your internet service provider. That DNS server looks up Amazon, which in this case CNET.com, finds out what IP address it has, realizes that it doesn't have that IP address in its routing table, sends it on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, until someone says, I know where CNET.com is, forward your packet there, and CNET sends you back your information. All of this happens transparently in seconds. And it works so well that most people don't even give it a second thought, they even give it the first thought. That's DNS. And you just have TCP/IP and DNS. That's as much as technical as we're going to get. Except for this. A URL. You type these into your browser all the time. It's called a uniform resource locator. That's what it means. The only thing that's important to know here is that it's just a path to a document or an image or a script on a server somewhere. That's all it is. So if you're asking for helmerlegal.com in an internet browser, it's taken into a file on a server. In this case, it's going to be index.html, and it's going to return that file to you in the manner that we just went.
Just like you open a file on your computer and, see my documents, Word document.doc, that's what you're doing there. number legal.com. It's just a shortcut for a very long string of information on our
Exactly. Now, you may have heard that there have been some exploits that target URLs. You go to click on a link in an email, it says HelmerLegal.com, it says Amazon.com, it says whatever it says. As you click on the link, well, that's what the link says. As your browser opens, you look at the browser, that's not the URL in your browser. These are very easy to forge. Hence why we're going over now. Something to be mindful of, and clicking on links and emails, that's just been an area for years and years and years. It's bad, especially now, of course. We're easy to go. Okay, that is now the official thing. There are a few rules, RPCs, that pertain in particular to attorneys and how attorneys use the internet to communicate with one another. Now, this is a comment to RPC 1.1 as part of the model rules of the ADA. It's not a New Jersey RPC comment, but it's worth mentioning here because eventually it's going to become. We're all moving in that direction. Several states are moving in that direction. New Jersey hasn't really updated their RPCs in a long time, but be prepared. To maintain the requisite knowledge and skill, a lawyer should keep abreast of changes in the law and practice. Okay, we do that. Including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology, and engage in continuing study and education and comply with all continuing education requirements. They added the including the benefits and risks associated with relevant technology. It's very easy nowadays to unintentionally violate the attorney-client privilege by not securing information. And that's resulted in lawsuits across the country, sanctions, and other things that we'll talk about. The first step is, you have to understand the technology and risks. That's hopefully what we'll accomplish. New Jersey RPC 1.4, communication. The lawyer shall fully inform the prospective client how, when, and where the client may communicate with the lawyer. Well, that's to facilitate communication because, as I've heard from talking with Lisa and others, one of the chief complaints against lawyers is that from clients, disgruntled clients, they don't talk to me. They don't keep me apprised of what's going on. I don't know what's happening with my case. They're not returning my phone calls. Well, the other part of that is explaining to the client how you can be reached. Your phone number, your email address, your cell phone number, if you happen to provide that. Well, take that one step further. Are you texting with your clients? A lot of us do, right? Are you emailing your clients? Almost certainly. And if you're emailing your clients, and those emails are traversing the public internet in an unsecure fashion like they do, how will you protect it? Is the attorney-client privilege. Have you done your due diligence to ensure that whatever information that you placed in that email is safe from prying eyes? Well, probably a sliding scale. If it's not that important, if it's scheduling a court date, not a big deal. If it's the statement from a criminal defendant in a homicide case, maybe you want to.
The general rule is that emails, unless you're using some kind of encryption, are about as secure as postcards. So if you're writing anything to a client, you would not be comfortable writing to that client on a postcard. You should not be sending it to them in an email.
There are solutions, we'll talk about imperfect solutions, but there are some solutions. RPC 1.6, confidentiality. A lawyer shall not reveal information relating to representation of a client unless the client consents after consultation, except for disclosures that are entirely authorized, etc. Well, if you're communicating with a client via text, has your client authorized you to do that? You may have a cell phone number, but have they said it's okay to contact them that way? Who has access to their cell phone? If you're emailing them, are you emailing them to a work address? Are you emailing, and in which case, who has access to the email? Is it privileged email? In New Jersey, the answer is probably still. Standard versus loving care is that case.
And if you think about texting, if if I lay my cell phone down on the desk, I have an iPhone, and someone texts me, the first portion of that text message, pretty long portion, pops right up there for the world to see. So, at a minimum, you and the client should know that that's a potential risk when you communicate that way. More than one person has been undone, usually by a spouse or significant other, because let's say a delicate text message arrived right in front of prying eyes.
Is that something that should go to the retainer? Or at least have your client authorize in writing exactly how you're supposed to communicate with them? And are you authorizing or telling them of the dangers involved? RBC 1.15 deals with the safekeeping of property. This normally applies to specific property, not correspondence, not your building, but your wills and formal documents. But you have to have that property, it has to be separately maintained, separately and protected from, as says here, appropriately safeguarded. Well, a lot of things are delivered digitally nowadays. Some things, their only copy is a digital copy, which may become subject to. This is a fairly recent ABA opinion of 11-459, which addresses, again, New Jersey doesn't have this, but this is from several years ago. But it's directly addresses the issue of email. A lawyer sending or receiving substantive communications with the client via email or other electronic means ordinarily must warn the client about the risk of sending or receiving electronic communications using the computer or the device or email account when there is a significant risk that a third party may gain access. As Sean mentioned, if you're using public email, well, there's a significant risk of that. There just is. So, again, this is not, blinding in New Jersey. It's not, might consider authoritative at this particular moment.
You say public email. Does that mean you're using a Gmail account, your Yahoo account, or does that include your firm account?
That includes your firm.
Okay.
He means any email that's not specifically encrypted. There are technologies for encrypting email, PGP and things like that, but they're so arcane and difficult to set up, almost no one uses them. So generally speaking, any email that you're sending and receiving is what we're talking
Let's just work with Pentagon.
about. Right.
Tim, can you just go back one slide real
Yes, I
quick?
would.
Just one thing, I'm going to dime out some of my cohorts in the industry, because we're talking about property, and that includes intellectual property. If you are using the services of a forensic professional, know what they're doing with your client's data, their intellectual property. I can tell you everything that I get once it hits me is encrypted. It goes in a fireproof vault. It is locked up behind 2 sets of locked doors. It's secure. But I have been asked exactly once since I've been in private practice, what are you doing with the data once you've got it? Again, I assure you, I'm doing the right thing, but I can't speak for everyone else that sets up shop potentially in their broom closet to do their forensic exams on their home computer. What are they going to do with your client's data? Again, with their intellectual property. So I just want to point that out.
That's good, and we'll come to that, because at some point, if you're using a forensic specialist, you're going to be entering into a formal agreement with them that will specify exactly how they're going to treat your client's information. That's really required in New Jersey. RPC 5.3, responsibilities regarding non-lawyer assistance. Well, and this really goes to what we're talking about. You have to adopt and maintain reasonable efforts to ensure that the conduct of non-lawyers continually employed by the lawyer, law firm, organization is compatible with professional obligations of the lawyer. So if you're turning over information to third parties like Scott, there has to be an agreement about exactly how that information is going to be held, how it's going to be stored, who's going to have access to it, what's going to happen to the drives that Scott uses to copy the information down after he's done, are they going to be wiped? What's the disposition of the entire process? Because otherwise, you can get the hard drive back that you gave him. That doesn't mean Scott doesn't have 5 copies of it, which he very easily would have in his lab on his, his network attached servers or whatever. All of that information's got to be deleted. But if no one's telling Scott, who's not a lawyer, to do that, he's not going to know. And that information could sit there. And of course, what happens to the information when Scott's done with it? When he repurposes the drives, perhaps within Cone Resident, and turns over some of his, you would do that. I know you would do it. But very easily that could happen. Someone decides, I'm done with this computer, throws it out, and you'll see a little later on what can happen when that happens. If you don't wipe the media securely, someone else picks it up, and they have access to everything that was supposed to be confidential to the client. Okay, this is the part where we get into, okay, so you have all this information. How do you get in trouble by losing it, either intentionally or unintentionally, because someone penetrates your network, someone steals the information from your network, or it's just, oops, lost. You all know what spoliation is. You do civil discovery, e-discovery. I can't say what I do, but I know the term. If you're charged with protecting information before it's been formally requested in a lawsuit. If you understand that a lawsuit is going to be brought, you have to, on behalf of your client, ensure that information that they have access to that may be germane and relevant if a lawsuit is protected from destruction. That isn't easy in a large organization. It's not. And if you're the attorney advising the organization, you have to be very, very careful about how you go about doing it. This is one example. It's a famous example, but one example of a case of spoliation that ruined one attorney's career and ended up paying $500,000 in sanctions. Personally, resigned from his law firm and was discharged for suspended from practice. That is Matt Murray, right here. Very well-known attorney in Virginia, law firm Allen, and very successful. His client was a gentleman who lost his wife in a traffic accident when a loaded concrete truck tipped over on her car. Mr. Murray sued on behalf of his client and came away with a $10.5 million verdict. During the pendency of the case, defense counsel from Fox Patent in Washington sent Mr. Murray a request for discovery that included a picture of the plaintiff's, the decedent's husband, wearing on his Facebook page, I Love Hot Moms t-shirt. That was taken and posted after his wife passed away. Well, they wanted his entire Facebook account preserved. Instead, Mr. Murray, this eventually came out. Mr. Murray advised his paralegal to send an email to his client advising him to delete everything off of his Facebook account immediately. And then when his client filled out the interrogatories, he said, in very specifically crafted worded language, as of this date, I do not have a Facebook account. Well, he didn't, because he deleted it. All of this came to light during the case. The attorneys from the defense firm